Welcome to the Winning with Shopify podcast. This is the podcast to help you scale your Shopify store into a money-making machine. The Winning with Shopify podcast is powered by Spec, who is the sponsor for this series. Get ready to take notes. Now, over to the studio.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuned in before, welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you tuning in. My name's Nick. I've been hosting the show for just over 3 years now. It's been quite a journey, and previous to me was Caroline as well, who was absolutely brilliant. If you want to check out any old episodes, a lot of our content is still quite relevant. And if you haven't left us a review yet or hit the subscribe button, please do that on whatever platform you are watching or listening to this on. Make sure you check out our Instagram. I've been posting quite a few stories about GA4 recently and trying to get more involved in having more of a one-to-one engagement with you guys than just sort of chucking the episode out and you guys watch. YouTube channel's up there as well if you want to watch the video and see what I actually look like, and all of my lovely guests as well. So make sure you go and check that out. Today we're continuing our series on social media. What a big topic, a hot potato that gets thrown around a lot and thrown around different social channels as well, which we'll come on to all of these different things as we go through. I've got a very special guest who's returning to the show that I'm really excited about. Her name is Janis Thomas, and she is from Look Fabulous Forever. So Janis, without further ado, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back. And if anyone didn't catch the show, I can't remember the exact date. Apologies, I probably should have checked before we hit record. But it was earlier in the year, near the start of the year, and we were talking about email, and there were some phenomenal statistics. So make sure you go and check that out if you haven't already. But for anyone that's not watched that or heard of you or follow you on LinkedIn already, Janis, give us a little overview just to yourself, the business you work for, and what a normal day looks like for you.
Yes, so since we last spoke, I am now the managing director of Look Fabulous Forever.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very exciting. So Look Fabulous Forever is a direct-to-consumer beauty brand for older women. But by older women, I don't mean what the rest of the beauty industry does, which is literally people over 25 are considered older women to the mainstream beauty industry. Yeah. But our customers are specifically post-menopause, so they are predominantly in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And what do I do with the business? So essentially my responsibility is really to grow the business, which is quite a big remit. Yeah. So that involves kind of culture and strategy, but also a lot of execution, particularly because we're not a huge team and because my background is marketing and e-com. I recently lost my CRM lead, so having spent a very, very long time as a direct marketing specialist, kind of not quite stepped into that role. Unfortunately, I had a very, very competent CRM exec, but definitely got a lot more involved in the day-to-day of emails than I have in many, many years of my career. So yeah, I think no 2 days are the same, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as a managing director myself, I know that, today I've got everything from doing this lovely podcast episode to literally fixing something in the kitchen, in the office. I've got HR things going on. I've got finance things going on. I've got an employee catch up. I've got 2 client catch ups, and I've got some SEO tech work to do and a couple of PPC bits on my list. That is the nature of the managing director, isn't it? Is to be able to parachute into situations, troubleshoot. And if you don't enjoy doing those things, then never become a managing director is my advice. But
yes.
Awesome. Well, look, we're talking about social, and you've already raised a few things, which I'm going to ask about audience age, about engagement, that sort of thing. But let's start with channels. So what sort of channels are you guys using? And the most important part of that question really is why? Why are you using those channels?
Yeah, so our 2 primary channels are YouTube and Facebook. That we know that they are responsible for acquiring the vast majority of our customers. We know they are where the vast majority of our customers engage with us. I think, and both of them were kind of in the history of the company, because we will be 10 years old this year. Nice. Both of them were quite serendipitous in their kind of evolution. That certainly when Trisha first started, she thought, you know what, I should do some kind of makeup tutorial videos. I should put them on YouTube. And I think she was really surprised the engagement they got, the traction she got. I mean, literally, she had a video in probably, kind of the first year of doing it that had 1 million organic views on YouTube. And I think one of the reasons for that is because our market is so overlooked by the mainstream beauty industry that yes, there are more than a million, I'm sure, beauty videos on YouTube, but not very many
Mm.
of them feature our target audience and
Yeah.
talk through the issues that our customers face. And I think particularly there's a lot of language around that's quite negative,
Yep.
that's about, oh, this is your problem and this is
Mm.
how to fix your problem. Whereas kind of our whole philosophy is much more about how to look your best and how to make the
Mm.
most of what you have. So I think there was already something that then fundamentally became part of the brand about that kind of positive view towards aging and
Mm.
older women and all of
Yeah.
those things. So kind of YouTube became kind of big quite quickly, and then Facebook just felt like the place where our audience would be, and again that kind of got organic
Mm.
traction. And really up until I joined the business 3 years ago, Facebook wasn't driving a massive amount of customer acquisition. It was driving some, but I've always been a great believer in particularly kind of Meta
Mm.
as a kind of revenue driving platform. And I
Yeah.
think there are very specific things that you can do that make it a very effective revenue
Mm.
driving platform. But you really, really have to think about it. And it's not just a case of, oh, let's just put some ads out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm really interested as well. We'll come on to this in a minute, not quite yet, but we are going to talk about some of your tactics as to how you do that. Excuse me. We had Ben Leonard on last week. He was talking about some of his tactics that I was a bit gobsmacked. I was like, okay, it's so simple now you're saying it like this. But then I was trying to think, well, actually, it's not, but it's not obvious. You wouldn't have come to that conclusion if you just woke up, logged into Facebook, and just staring at your news feed going, I need to just post the post, don't I? Like, that's the obvious thing. Whereas the way they're using things like Facebook Messenger, I think is really, really smart. But let's talk about initially. So how do you start to grow those channels initially? And then we'll come on to like, now we've got some audience. What do we do with those guys? But how has that growth happened? You mentioned that YouTube, just putting content out. YouTube's a search engine. People are looking for it. That works really, really well. How do you do that on something like Meta, as you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are kind of two strands
Hmm.
to it. One is kind of trial and error and putting, being consistent about putting content out on a regular
Yeah.
basis and saying, okay, this is my hypothesis. I'm going to try this. And what does it, kind of does it perform in the way that I was expecting? If it
Hmm.
didn't, why did it not perform in that way? Why does A video get more traction than
Hmm.
B video? What can we do
Yep.
to learn from this? And kind of that's one of the things that I love about the social platforms. It's
Hmm.
not like, if you do a TV ad, you spend, kind of months planning it and, shooting
Yeah.
it and editing it and all of those things, and then it runs for, kind of months
And
on
it could
end.
fail.
Whereas
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, social is like, okay, like every day, let's do something
Hmm.
different. Let's try something. Let's learn.
Yep.
Let's evolve. And I think the other strand of it is we actually ask our customers, that we
Nice.
talk to our customers, particularly. I mean, we get feedback from them every day in various formats, but one of the things that
Hmm.
we do is we do a formal quarterly customer survey, and one of the permanent questions in that survey
Hmm.
is there any content that you would like to see from us? And
Yep.
I think not just does that come with content ideas, which are always really
Yeah. Yeah.
helpful,
Absolutely.
but I think as a brand, you're really aware of the content that you're producing and the content you're putting out, and you just feel like, oh, I'm saying this particular thing all the time. So,
Hmm.
for example, one of the things that we consistently get from our customers every time we ask them the question, they keep saying to us, we want more eye makeup content. And we're just like,
Well.
surely they must be sick of eye makeup content. But just hearing that from our customers,
Hmm.
hearing like, do you know what, we want more of this, it's very easy for us to get in our own heads and just be like, oh, I've talked about that too much already, people can't possibly be interested. But actually asking them and hearing our customers say, do you know what, we want more of this, even if it's something that we're doing already, just that reminder
Hmm.
to keep banging that drum even when you think that you've kind of,
Yep.
must have exhausted it by now is really, really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. And I've got 3 rounds of why questions now. I guess the first one really is, how do you know, or do you go then as far as asking customers about, so say eye makeup content? Do you ask them why they want that, to find out, like, is there a problem, like for example, eyes? I mean, I know from having a wife who's a doctor. Don't send me any medical questions, everybody. I'm not accepting them. But having a wife who's a doctor, she said a lot of women, when you're stressed, you struggle to sleep, and it shows more in a woman's face than it does in a man's, and therefore they need makeup. So, do you kind of work that out and know that, or do you actually ask those questions as well?
I mean, A, we are shooting with women who are our target customers. So,
Sure.
kind of talking to them about the specific issues they face. And our customers will, some of them will just, literally say, well, what kind of content do you want to see more of? Eyes, is like as far as you get. Other
Yeah,
people will be like, I want to see someone who has very hooded eyes or very small eyes, or, I
yeah,
want to see what shades of makeup will suit my eye color. We get a lot of kind of specific feedback, and we will also kind of pair together things that we see success from. So,
yeah,
kind of one of our most
yeah.
successful videos ever, which was quite surprising because the vast majority of our customers are retired. So in theory, they have, they're not in a rush to get ready in the
Yeah,
morning.
true.
But one of our most successful videos ever was a 5-minute makeup routine.
Wow.
So we're like, 5-minute eye makeup routine, so just kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
pairing together. They want more makeup, they
That's
want
very
more eye
smart.
makeup
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
The 5-minute format works. Pair those things together.
Yeah, yeah. So my second why question, and my third one might be a how, but the second why question then is, when you're looking at a video to work out why it's, or any piece of content to work out why it's worked, why it's not worked, what are you looking at to answer the why? Like, what are some of the stats that's so important?
Yeah, I think like the primary one is like how many people watched it. That is, kind of the number one,
Yeah.
particularly because a lot of our engagement is pushed out through, we might promote that video via email, we might promote that video on Facebook, kind of that our YouTube subscribers will receive an alert that we sent it out to them. So, kind of that kind of stat, but
Yeah.
also kind of, how long did they watch it for? Where's the drop off point? What, kind of how long are they engaging? What are they putting in the comments? Kind of all of those things. And we spoke to YouTube a while ago, and they said to us that on average, people who watch our videos watch them for 5 times longer than their typical watch time.
Wow.
So
That is
that was
impressive.
really
Yeah.
interesting and really useful. So there are a lot of things like that where you're like, oh, the trend is towards short video. And, I'm not saying that short video has no place,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there are things where the common received wisdom might be slightly different for our customers.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting, actually, and I guess it creates a problem and a lovely solution to a different problem as well. The problem is now we've got to probably make longer videos, which cost more. We need more content to go in them, and people need, people want to engage longer than that. But it also comes with we've now got their attention for so much longer as well, which solves another problem of, like, are they engaged? They're going to do stuff. The drop off rates I think are really interesting. We do, partly when we're doing SEO, we use YouTube as a search engine. We do YouTube SEO, we optimize videos, etc. And if anyone's not doing that, definitely get on that. Literally the old school keywords, like if you used to have meta keywords in SEO, you just whack them in. It's like, this is an eye makeup video, and this is a cheek makeup video about foundation, and you can chuck that in, and people looking for those things, bang, you're already there. But the drop off rates I think are absolutely fascinating, because I guess you guys then go back and you go, okay, a lot of people dropped out between kind of this minute and this minute, or within this 1 minute gap. At that point, we're actually just introducing the second guest, or actually most people skipped over that point. It's like, intros need to be short, or actually we should just cut to the person talking and put their intro in text. People don't want to see intros. And I guess you could probably put out some really cool insights to make the content even more engaging, and even extend those watch rates as well, those watch times.
Absolutely, that we just, kind of, and I think the nature of our videos, I mean, it varies, but the kind of majority of them are some kind of tutorial or some kind of demo of a product. So it's really, a lot of people will watch them through to the end because they want to know, kind of, or it's quite quick. It's like, oh, actually, this wasn't what I was looking for. I'm going to go watch something else.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get the thing is always you've got to go, okay, the question on the, if it's a question video, it's like, how do I do this? You've got to make sure the video answers that question. It's not boring. I think the other thing that I've certainly seen with content a lot is people get, they feel a lot of pain when they have to get kind of 3/4 of the way through the video before they get the answer. And I've certainly seen stats on FAQ videos where people have skipped to that point just straight away. Like they've just ignored most of it, skipped there, but then this is a good video. They've already covered it early on and said, today we're talking about this. So this is the obvious solution, but we're going to unpack that and tell you how to do it. And so actually now you're adding value rather than like a lot of news stories do when you see a story saying like, so and like I follow a lot of football and it says so-and-so is thinking of leaving their club for a surprise other club. And I'm like, what club is it? And you scroll right to the bottom and the last line says, and they're going to Liverpool. And you're like, that's fine, I don't care. But it's made me go through the whole article and I've clicked on an Apple News article, etc. But yeah, coming on to my third why, it's more of a how question really is. You answered why you do surveys and asking customers questions and then using that for content, which I think makes a lot of sense. And it means you're making stuff that then we've already got an audience that want to watch this thing, so they've asked for it, so here it is, plus there must be others. But I guess it's really a how question. We have some clients that send out surveys and they generally have very high brand sentiment. Tons of people fill out the survey. Sometimes as much as 45-50% of people fill out this survey very quickly and we're happy. Other times we've sent a survey out to like 20,000, 30,000 people and then we had like 3 responses. And we then start going mad, was it the subject line in the email? Was it how do you get that right? You do them every quarter. The business has been running 10 years. You've probably done it the whole time, but you must have done a few of these. What have you learned that's important to get that survey out, to get the information to then provide content?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be fair, our response rates have stayed pretty steady. We actually brought this in when I joined the business 3 years ago. So we've done 3 quarterly surveys. So we must be on like 12, 13 now. And actually the response rate has stayed quite steady. It's about 10%, which is good and solid. And I think for us, particularly, we survey the people who bought from us in the last 3 months. And so there are going to be a lot of people, because we have a very loyal customer base, who, do you know what? They answered the last survey and the survey before and the survey before that. And do you know what? If they want to dip out for a bit, that's fine with us. So I think as long as we're getting a decent kind of statistically significant amount of responses, then we're not like, oh, we want to push it up to 15%, because it's like, well, then we're just going to get more of the more fatigue from it. I'd rather customers kind of dipped in and out when they felt engaged. And I think we do a lot. One of the things that we have introduced, which I think is really helpful, is whenever we send out the survey email, we always try to find something that we can say, we have done this, or we are about to do this because of your feedback in a previous survey. So to really provide evidence that they're not just sending us data that goes into a void. If they tell us something in the survey, we are going to do something with that information.
That's really smart, because then they're engaged, aren't they? Going, oh, I voted for that, because you're going with the majority anyway on whatever. Well, maybe not always, but you're finding out. So quite often you choose the thing where 80% of people who answered the last survey said they wanted this. Well, we're going to deliberately launch it around the same time as the next survey to get people to engage in the next survey. Yeah, it all ties up quite nicely. And I imagine because of that then sentiment of like, okay, I voted for that and you guys are doing it, those people must be so much more likely to tell their friends, and you get a lot more organic referrals and that sort of thing as well. I think it's a really, really smart move. Really smart. Let's come on to the $1 million question then. So you got all these audiences, you got this content going out. How do you convert that into money? And I know it's an entire vacuum of questions are going to come out of this, but give us an overview. Like, how do you guys approach it?
Yeah, so we know that we have a really long journey to purchase, because our products are designed in a completely different way to the products that our customers will have historically used, will be able to buy in a shop, kind of all of those things. So we need to take them on a journey. We need to tell them why we exist as a brand. The fact that our founder, Trisha Cusden, started the brand 10 years ago when she was 65. So she's 75 now. She started the brand because she faced the same problems as our customers face. We're not a big faceless organization. We're a family run business based in the UK. We then got to tell them about how our different products work. Why is our blusher different from the blusher that they can go and buy in Boots or Superdrug or John Lewis? How is it designed to work for them? Then there's the kind of tutorial side, that not just our eyeliner is it's not black, it's going to be a dark color, but it's not going to be black. It's going to provide a really soft, subtle line, not a harsh line. But how you're going to apply it at 75 is very different to how you're going to apply it at 25. So we've then got all that kind of tutorial video stuff. So we're taking them on a journey, and we know from talking to our highest value customers that particularly YouTube, they engage with a lot of our YouTube content before they made a purchase. So maybe there's a customer out there that, you know what, sees one Facebook ad and makes a purchase. But the customer who saw lots of different brand messages, understands our proposition, understands our philosophy, understands our story, understands why our products are different before they make that first purchase, is going to be much more loyal and much more engaged and all of those things. So we're kind of quite relaxed about this journey to purchase. We're kind of like, let's put out this really useful and helpful content. Let's really make sure that we're telling our story and explaining who we are and why we're different and all of those things. And the customer can, in her own time, come to us, because our mission as a brand is to empower a generation of women to look, live, and feel fabulous forever. So if you are going to buy your eye drug, sorry, I can't even say it, your eyeliner from Superdrug, then do you know what? If you're engaging with our video that helps you apply that in a flattering way, then we've achieved something as a brand. So our kind of that useful and helpful content is really at the core of who we are. But commercially, we have two key tipping points. We have that one when you make your first purchase from us. And, you know, ultimately, we do want to, sooner or later, to push you over that line. The other crucial step is your second purchase with us, because we know if we can get you from that first purchase to that second purchase, typically you will go on to make at least 7 purchases with us once you've made that second purchase.
Nice.
So if we can get you through those 2 hurdles, then you're going to be really, really engaged, and you will probably continue to engage with us through tutorial videos, to read our emails, kind of to, you know, follow us on Facebook, to be part of our Facebook community, all of those things, and you will go on to be very kind of engaged with the brand. But we have those 2 tipping points. So we're making sure that we've got, we're putting out this brilliant content that is really useful and helpful, but we've got that kind of more bottom of funnel conversion focused, offer led, product led stuff to kind of push you over the line to purchase.
Nice. And the analogy I've got in my head, which I think describes this quite well, really, is like, you imagine people have got all these different barriers and you're slowly kind of taking them down one by one with different pieces of content. So one barrier is like, well, I don't know who you are. Okay, I know who you are now, but I don't trust you. Or I now trust you, but I still don't know what you do. And okay, now I know what you do. And it's almost like, okay, you now have no more barriers, so there's no fence up. Cool, come in, purchase some products. I guess a really, really key question, and I think the whole engagement journey is lovely, but I have one massive question. I'm sure other marketing people are sitting there trying to work this one out, is how do you then allocate budgets to different steps, to different content types? I mean, your facial reaction says to me with great difficulty, but yeah, I mean, how do you go about that? Like, how do you go, well, Google ads and Facebook ads are converting really nicely, but they're all the people at the bottom of the funnel now, or certainly Google are. So if we just put more money in there, we're going to hit a limit where we're now trying to attract new customers at the wrong stage. Like, how do you work out where to invest throughout that funnel?
Yeah. So if you've got 100 touch points on a journey to purchase, then understanding one touch point represents 1% or 2% of that journey
Mm.
is kind of largely irrelevant.
Yep.
So we really take a step back and we say, okay, what are we putting in and what are we getting out? Particularly, like, what are we investing and what are we spending, particularly on media?
Mm.
And what is our specifically our new customer revenue coming out? Because those two numbers are absolute. And then
Yep.
as we change things in the middle, what happens to those two numbers? So,
Mm.
for example, when we initially launched YouTube advertising. I mean, nobody in the history of YouTube has ever clicked on a YouTube ad because, why would you? Oh, I've
Yep.
come to YouTube to watch this video, but no,
And buy
no, I'm
stuff.
going to visit your website instead. So there's
Yep.
no way you're ever going to track directly be able
Mm.
to track that.
Yep.
But we could see, okay, so we were getting more brand search, more people searching for our YouTube
Hmm.
channel, and then we were seeing more new
Nice.
customer revenue. So we were looking at the input and the output, and
Mm.
then kind of what happened in between. And I think that very much is our philosophy. And then, we are looking, at, okay, how many views is that particular YouTube video getting? Kind of what is
Mm.
Facebook saying the conversion is on that particular ad creative? There are data points in the
Mm.
middle that we're not ignoring those, but ultimately the measure of success is
Yep.
how much we are spending and how much new customer revenue are we getting out, and
Mm.
they drive how we're making adjustments in the middle.
Which is obviously a smart way to do it because it's cash in, cash out, and the cash out needs to be higher than the cash in, obviously. But I guess one way to look at it, and I love this, and I use the analogy a lot with clients, is macro and micro. So macro is the money in, money out, and our customers are on Facebook, they're on YouTube. We need to engage in those platforms. They're not, and we'll come on to this in a minute. Well, I assume they might not be on TikTok. So TikTok's not a good place for us. We'll test it. It doesn't make any change to the money in goes up, but the money out doesn't change, or the engagement in the middle doesn't change. So we're not going to change that. And then you've got the micro points, which you also touched on. Okay, people are not engaging with this video, but they are engaging with this video. So although it's a blanket approach to the budgeting, we need to make sure that all these different points are getting the most engagements. We'll focus on the stuff that does get engagement. But yeah, let's talk about TikTok and Snapchat and the whole realm of fun little platforms that have popped up recently. I guess the first question really is, are your customers on them? Do you know that? Were you surprised at any point in investigating this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the place we always start is we ask our customers, because we have this
Mm.
quarterly this customer survey that
Yeah,
10%
yeah.
of our
Yep.
customers are responding to. We ask, and we ask it not like every quarter, but we check in like once a year. Hey,
Mm.
you on TikTok? And
Yeah.
things like TikTok specifically, we didn't think that many of our customers would be on it. Last time we asked it, which probably about 6 months ago, it was 1% of our customer base. So it's like, do you know what? It's not, that's not to say it's never for us, and we will
Mm.
continue to check in rather than make assumptions. But
It's
a
good.
lot of these things we're just like, do you know what? Ask our customers first. We had the same with buy now, pay later. It's like, should we offer our customers buy now, pay later? It's like, do you use it? Which services have you heard of?
Mm.
Like asking those questions. And we know, because we're getting a statistically significant sample, when is it that we should be playing with other platforms. And
Mm.
there are things like,
Yeah, yeah.
we know that we have disproportionately, if you look at our Instagram followers versus our Facebook followers versus our YouTube subscribers, if you look at those numbers on the surface, they paint a very different picture than the amount of our customers who are using those platforms and the
Oh, well.
frequency that they are using them.
Mm.
So having that customer data
Mm.
is really interesting. And then, for example, so we have, in proportion to our number of customers who engage with us, so the number of people who follow us on Instagram versus the number of our customer base who are regularly engaging with Instagram, you would think Instagram is a bigger channel for us than it actually is. And that's then borne out with our data from Meta's advertising that actually, in terms of conversion, we very rarely see conversion on the Instagram platform. So, if you
It's
just look
interesting.
at the follower numbers, you're like, oh, actually, you've got a decent chunk of people on Instagram. It's like, yeah, and that's not to say we don't invest in it, but it's not necessarily driving the kind of revenue and engagement and things that you would have thought just looking at those numbers.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the other key challenge with all of that as well is you're comparing Instagram with YouTube, and there's no like for like on them, which is where you get that as well. Because on YouTube, you'll go, well, people are engaging with us for 20 minutes because they're watching tutorials. Whereas Instagram, we average about 7 seconds, but Instagram really is snack time as far as content
Yeah.
consumption is concerned. And it does become quite unhealthy when it's not. But I think it's an important point you've made there, that actually the numbers can be deceiving. It's the engagement we're looking at, not just the follower numbers. I guess on YouTube as well, you probably get a lot of people actually just kind of stopping by and finding a video. Whereas on YouTube, you very much, your feed really is who you're following. You might follow a hashtag that brings something up, but a lot of people don't follow hashtags, they follow accounts. The discovery section as well, you almost have to kind of get viral to be viral as well, which I find very frustrating about their algorithm. They almost don't test it. They don't go, well, this, only 10 people have watched this, but it's quite engaging. Let's show it to a load more. You almost like have to pay them or push it yourself a
Yeah, I
bit.
mean, I
And
think our YouTube is slightly different, and not completely, but because we have this really long this kind of disproportionate engagement, that then feeds into the YouTube algorithm, that it
yeah,
knows if it services our videos through discovery, typically our watch time is going to be longer, which is better
yeah,
for
yeah,
them, which keep
yeah,
people on the platform for longer. And because our customers are underserved by our content, it means that they're more likely to engage with it. That's not to say, I mean, we're not going viral all the time, but there are things that work in our favor, particularly the fact that we're providing good quality content. And kind of
yeah,
ultimately, that's the thing, as you were saying, that if you're providing the video equivalent of clickbait, then you're going to annoy people pretty
yeah,
quickly. But
yeah,
if
yeah,
you're consistently providing high quality content, then that's going to help the algorithm. And I
yeah,
think we've seen that a lot, from an SEO perspective, with Google's useful content algorithm
yeah, yeah.
update.
The how-to
That
videos and and schema updates. Yep.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of things rise up because they're like,
Nice.
oh no, no, your content is really good quality.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was talking about the Instagram discovery where I find it frustrating, but yeah, I completely agree on YouTube. YouTube's fantastic at that. It's a much better place, I think, for pushing content out. And certainly, I mean, like I say, it's the platforms, isn't it? You're not expecting to go on YouTube and watch or go on Instagram and watch a 20-minute video. If you have to click on a reel to watch it. The other annoying thing, a tiny little thing on Instagram that really bugs me, is you see a funny or a good video on your feed, you click on it, or it kind of finishes after like the default 30 seconds something. So you click on it to watch more of that video, and it goes into the reel mode and starts the video again.
Yeah,
Like, I've
it's
just
like, no,
watched the
no, I want to
30
watch the
seconds.
rest of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Whereas, I mean, YouTube is so much better, and I think YouTube's been very smart with their advertising as well, putting the skip after 5 seconds in. Not always, but then also YouTube is learning, like, okay, this is a crazy high level of engagement in this video. You don't need skip ads on it. You can put long form ads and people will watch them because they want to watch the rest of the content, which is amazing. I'm going to go on a slight tangent now because you've mentioned it a few times. I think it's super relevant actually to all of this, and certainly to the question about how do you make revenue out of this, and that's CRM and data. You've mentioned it a few times, and I think you've got a really interesting approach on this. So I guess the question really is, how do you use CRM? Like, do you flood everything, all the data out of CRM to go, right, we're making a decision. What are our customers doing? What are they buying? That then drives the decision. It's obviously not going to be black and white like that every time, but yeah, how do you manage that CRM function? And you mentioned right at the start as well about, your CRM exec, and you've lost one of your senior CRM leads. That must have been a challenge given the way that you're using the data.
Yeah, I mean, that for us is also a kind of huge, that kind of feeds into so many other things because we have this very engaged email base that we can see, okay, when we talk about X, what's our click through rate? When we talk about Y, kind of what's our open rate? And one of the the kind of things that we looked at recently, which I found really interesting, is that we've started being more explicit in email, particularly when we're sharing a video. It's like, well, what are you going to see in this video?
Yeah.
And things like, we know that some of our customers, again, because we've asked them and they've told us, some of our customers prefer written content to video content. So we'll often create a landing page and we'll say, oh, actually, we're going to give you a landing page that's got the video at the top, but then beneath it, it's going to have the step by step
Yeah,
of
yeah.
how kind of tutorial underneath it. And I think it just comes back to this whole approach that's kind of test and learn. And I think for us as a business, one of the things that is so valuable is starting with a hypothesis and like making a record of that, because it's so easy when we look back at performance to be like, oh yeah, of course that did
Yeah.
that. And you get this kind of hindsight bias. So actually saying, okay, my hypothesis is if we do X, we should see Y result. And that can be in terms of, kind of weekly offers. It can be email. It can be when I launch a video. It can be all kinds of different things. And I think that's a
Yep.
really important data point to be like, well, what was our expectation and what was the reality, and why were those two things different? So we actually learn rather than just kind of retrofit what the data kind of tells us in hindsight.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean the test and learn is so important, especially with social. Like we were saying right at the start, just because you post something doesn't mean that it's going to have good engagement. You don't know what it's going to do. It's also the challenge with keeping this about social. It's also the challenge with SEO. If we talk about YouTube SEO, you don't know how the algorithm's going to respond to something, and then you always get those videos where like our audience loved it, but YouTube didn't push it out there. And then you get the opposite as well, where like none of our audience really engaged, they didn't watch much. But then YouTube was just flooding views, but none of them are getting beyond 10%. Like, well, what's it doing? And it's just the nature of an AI algorithm, isn't it? That's what it's going to do. It's how it's going to respond to stuff. So I think having that hypothesis is so important. Otherwise, and I've had clients like this in the past where they're just so scared to try stuff because they're like, well, we can't see what the value is, so we're not going to do it. And sometimes we have to kind of throw them off the edge of the cliff and go, nope, just give it a go. Off we go, see what happens. And they're like, oh, you can fly after all. Or actually, it was quite a soft landing, and that landing was really nice, and everybody enjoyed it in the end. So I think you have to try things. But I think, like we're saying about CRM, and the same with watching the data, you need to have some sort of data point. Otherwise, you're just going to sort of throw it out there. And I think the worst way to run stuff in a test and learn is you chuck it out there, and then you're just kind of trying to watch everything. I think you need to go, okay, we're going to put a tutorial out there. So it's a tutorial. So what's the hypothesis? Well, people are going to watch a lot of it. We want to make sure our existing customers are quite engaged with it, but we also do want to attract some new customers. So can we connect CRM and YouTube somehow and see like, okay, these guys have definitely watched it and all these new people have watched it, and can we track them? What next? Did they watch something else? How many new subscribers did we get on YouTube? And kind of making that list almost before you start. I always say with Google Analytics as well is don't dive in and just go, I want to just see what's going on. You need to have a plan. You need to go, today I'm going to look at customer engagement. I'm going to look at analytics and see what it's telling me. Or today I want to see lifetime value. So I'm going to go into CRM or Magento or Shopify or something and see how often people are buying stuff. But I love that view of like, have a hypothesis before we do something, but also don't be scared to run the test in the first place if we don't know what impact it's going to have.
Absolutely. And I think there have been some points in my career where actually running the thing that we really, really don't think will work, and actually having the definitive answer that it doesn't work can be really, really valuable for like shutting down, like, no, do you know what? We're not going to do that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so even
Yeah.
it didn't work can be really, really valuable information.
As long as it's not too expensive is the only caveat I'd put on the end of it. But,
Yeah, of
but
course.
yes,
Yeah,
but
don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think if there's 1,000 doors out there, the quicker we close 995 of them, the better in a way.
Yeah.
But also, I've certainly had bits in my career where I've said to clients, or we've been running a project and going, look, guys, this is going to absolutely fail, but someone's pushing this so hard. Just turn the thing on. And then you've got to be really humble to go, look, we said it wasn't going to work and it has. Like this has actually been really successful. Well done for pushing this. This is good. Because it's very dangerous then go like, hey, everyone, look at this massive success story. When actually we were the ones saying we didn't think it was going to work. But coming on to the last question then, Janis. Where are you guys going next? What do you think's on the horizon? You mentioned about keeping an eye on TikTok and other channels, and at some point that audience is going to break their way into your target audience. That's going to happen, but maybe not for 20 or 30 years. What's on the horizon in the social media world for you guys? What are you looking to test next? What's coming without any trade secrets? It's going to break anything that's top secret.
Yeah, absolutely. So because we've got all this like really varied content, we don't necessarily have like a consistent journey to purchase. Different people are going to want to interact with different content on the way. For us so far this year, Meta's Advantage Plus shopping campaigns have been a game changer for us because
Nice.
instead of having a handful of creative, suddenly we can have 50 different creative that tell stories of different products, different aspects of the brand, kind of all of those things, and people can go on this really kind of bespoke journey to purchase. It's from a new customer acquisition point of view, it really has been a game changer for us as a business. And I think, things like potentially they will bring in being able to optimize for value and not just for conversions, using ASC for more different things. Like kind of right now we're just running it as a kind of conversion campaign, but kind of are there potentially other objectives that we can look at? Can we test different things? I think we are just scratching the surface of the power of ASC. And I think particularly we've been doing a lot of testing with the Meta platform over the past year or so and got really, really kind of disciplined into, right, we always have a test running. That's been so valuable for us. And I think, kind of not necessarily for us specifically, but at some point, Threads is already the fastest growing platform in the history of platforms, and let's face it,
I've still
Meta's
not
gonna
touched
go,
it out of principle, but I need to. I know I work in digital. I need to give it a go. But
they're gonna monetize that at some point. CPMs are apparently like the lowest they've been in a very long time. I think the kind of resurgence of Meta this year is going to be an opportunity for everyone.
Yeah. I think it's been very exciting, and I think Facebook's, well, previously known as Facebook, Meta, they've certainly annoyed everyone, I think, with the change to Meta, and that was terribly communicated. Everyone's a bit like, what are you doing? I also think the Advantage Plus campaigns, I'm glad you mentioned them, they're so exciting. And the biggest reason I think they're exciting is because of when Facebook and iOS just like annoyed everybody. So, when the iOS update happened, we, as a Google agency, we picked up a lot of business around that time. But it was really frustrating because there were businesses that had been built, our new clients, the businesses had been built around Facebook and around the Facebook advertising. And now we're trying to do bottom of funnel Google. And it took a while to get it to click. It did work in the end with pretty much all of them, but it took a while to click. And so I think we're long overdue Facebook just going, we'll just charge you per conversion or something to give back. And also their customer service as well. We're all getting account managers now, which is long overdue. We've got a few clients that are just, last summer, 3 clients got turned off because their ads related to employment. We were like selling T-shirts. And it was like months before Meta would unsuspend the account. And then at Christmas, there was a client of ours in the middle of peak, 3 or 4 weeks before Christmas. Conversion rate had just hit a record high, and they had all this money. It was like, turn all the budgets up. So we did. And the whole account just got turned off by Meta. And it took us 2 months to find out why. And it was because Meta was hacked. None of our user accounts, no one client or agency side. Someone at Meta was hacked, and someone had gone in there and made a load of fraudulent ads. They just kicked everybody out. We've seen the fraudulent activity, and we stopped it. We don't care. We've just lost millions. Literally millions was lost off that. So there were things like that, and we've now got a much better support team, and they are fixing those things, which I think is exciting but long overdue. It's like telling someone, like, you can now drink water. It's like, well, this should have been available all along, I think, is my view. So, yeah. Exciting times. Well, thank you so much, Janis. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great.
My pleasure, Nick. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And the pleasure was all mine. But yeah, thank you for joining us. And for everybody watching at home, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you tune in next week as well. We've got a few weeks on social media now. We've got some amazing guests coming up as well. So stay tuned. If you've got any social media questions, head over to winningwithshopify.com. Fill out any form on the website. They all come to the same place. I'm not supposed to say that, but there it is. They all come to the same place. So fill out any of the forms on our site and ask any questions you want. And we'll aim to get back to you and also cover the questions in the episodes if we can as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Back again next week.